Hey guys, it's Minius. This is the final part of the first season of lore videos, though if you are watching this in a playlist, I have rearranged it into chronological order. So this is number 2 of 6 and is followed by 4 videos on major conflicts that take place after the Prothean Extinction. Before you watch this, you might want to check out the previous video called Reaper Genesis. But if you've already seen it, or want to watch these videos in whatever the hell order you feel like, stick around. The Protheans were the dominant civilization in the Milky Way 50,000 years before the events of the original trilogy. And then they vanished. And they're a difficult bunch to figure out, for many reasons. The first of which is, at some point during the creation of the trilogy, the writers appear to have completely changed directions on what the Protheans were like. Just compare the tone of Vigil in the first game to the tone of Javik in the third game. Of course, there are actually ways that these different tones fit. Vigil was an advanced non-organic analysis system with the personality of the Overseer at the scientific research facility on Ilos, and Javik was a battle-scarred veteran from the last breaths of the entire Prothean society. For the most part, the mystery and misconceptions of the Protheans were built into the lore of Mass Effect from the very beginning. The modern races of the Milky Way thought that the Protheans were the only spaceflight species of their era, that the Protheans built both the Citadel and the mass relay system, and that the Protheans were responsible for discovering how to manipulate Element Zero into Mass Effect technology. All of which are false. But you can't really blame the new races for their lack of knowledge of the Protheans, because pretty much everything about them was wiped out. There are Prothean ruins throughout the galaxy, but there's not a whole lot that can be made from them. The technology at many of these locations degraded over time, or was picked clean by scavengers. As the games make very clear, the Protheans did not create the Citadel or the mass relay system. They simply found them. And the Mass Effect technology they used was most likely borrowed or adapted from an earlier species. Probably the Anusinon, who likely borrowed it from an even earlier species, and so on and so on. But even knowing all of that, there's no denying that the Protheans were brilliant. Aside from the fact that some of their technology remained operational 50,000 years after they vanished, they were able to reverse engineer and miniaturize a mass relay on the planet of Ilos. Which brings me back to an earlier point. Those Protheans on Ilos seem different from Javik's Protheans. Even the statues you encounter on Ilos look nothing like Javik. Of course, one possibility is that those statues are Anusinon, the alien race who came before the Protheans and supposedly colonized Ilos. But another equal possibility is that the aliens depicted in these statues were Prothean, but of an entire different species, because the Protheans collected or absorbed other races, and weren't particularly flexible about giving those races an option.
Are you saying you enslaved the other species?
Any could oppose us if they wished. And if they had won, they would have ruled. Many tried. None succeeded.
So this might explain the tone difference between Vigil and Javik. And who knows how many other races the original Protheans, most likely these guys, pulled into their imperial government. But they didn't absorb these races simply to dominate. They did so to add to the quality of their society and technology. And they were always looking for more. The Protheans even influenced the early societies of not just the Hanar, but the Asari. They even set up a facility on Mars to keep an eye on human development. But ultimately, the Protheans exerted too much control over the species they did add to the Empire. Their military, and probably other organizational aspects of their society, became uniform, rigid, and inflexible. So when the Reapers showed up, they exploited this uniformity, found the weaknesses in the Prothean system, and repeatedly hammered at them. Even though there were many Prothean races, their flaws were the same, and they were unable to adapt. But the largest factor in the demise of the Protheans was that the Reapers had a time-tested strategy for extinction. The Protheans, like many races before them, used the Citadel as their seat of government, and from there they kept a tight control on their empire. But as you almost certainly know, the Citadel is a trap. Its true purpose is not a space station at all, but an enormous mass relay to dark space. Without warning, the seemingly benign Keepers activated it from the inside, and the Reapers came pouring through, easily taking the seat of the Prothean government by force. Once the Reapers had the Citadel, they were able to gain access to Prothean records, census data, and communication systems. They blocked access to the mass relays and cut Prothean communications. Basically, in one quick move, the Reapers had taken the great Prothean Empire and shattered it. Prothean worlds found themselves alone, leaderless, unable to communicate with anyone, and unable to travel great distances. Basically, the Protheans had completely lost the ability to form a large-scale coordinated defense, and the Reapers moved in on their isolated worlds. Some they completely eradicated, others were captured, and the population of the planet became enslaved. The Reapers then sent those indoctrinated slaves to seek refuge with surviving bands of Protheans. Those bands were then infiltrated and betrayed. We know of at least 2 major cases of this. Both the Prothean Crucible and Javik's attempt to hide an army in cryostasis were undone by indoctrinated Protheans. Even though the Protheans were an incredibly advanced and powerful civilization, they never really stood a chance. Their extinction was just a matter of time. And it did take time. The Protheans fought hard, and it was several centuries until every Prothean was either dead or under Reaper control. The Reapers then instructed these slaves to remove all evidence of the conflict. When that was done, the Reapers left an augmented contingent of indoctrinated Protheans on a base in the center of the galaxy, and then retreated to dark space, leaving the remainder of the mindless indoctrinated husks to die on their own. However, the Reapers missed something. And what they missed is probably the coolest bit of Mass Effect lore out there, but I can't explain it any better than my boy Vigil, so I'll be brief. That scientific research facility on Ilos, with the miniaturized mass relay to the Citadel, remained hidden. After all, it was a top-secret facility, and any record of its location was destroyed when the Reapers first took the Citadel. As soon as the Protheans on Ilos realized the Empire was under large-scale attack, they went dark, sent their personnel into stasis deep underground, and waited out the Prothean extinction. When the Reapers left, the surviving Protheans of Ilos used their reverse-engineered relay to travel to the Citadel. There they severed the connection between the Reapers and their Keeper pawns. So when the time came for the next invasion, the Reapers were unable to launch their large-scale surprise attack. The impact this had on the Mass Effect series is, of course, huge. The first thing it did was delay the Reaper invasion. Sovereign had to work for decades, or maybe much longer, before it was able to make a visible play to turn back on the Citadel. The delay of the Reaper attack allowed the new races of the Milky Way to catch wind of the invasion before it happened. And although many ignored the warnings, others were able to harden communications and prevent the same type of shattering the Reapers did to the Protheans. The Protheans lost their fight against the Reapers. Around 1 trillion Protheans were killed, but they did set the table for the future races of the Milky Way to succeed. If you like this video, please give it a like. It really helps out the channel. Keep an eye on Minius GC for more lore, and of course, other Mass Effect videos. But for now...
What?
I wanted to go. As did I. 50,000 years later, and I rarely get picked.
Joker will come back for you. I promise.